Sorry. Okay, hello everybody. Hi. Sorry, just getting used to StreamYard. A little bit slow today. Um, okay, so thanks for joining me. I'm very excited. This week, I have finally written and published a book. It's taken 20 years of information. I created, look, I didn't put all of everything that I know, but it's probably the best of the information that I have as it pertains to the 2025 AI job quake. We've heard people call it the AI job quake. The book, and I put a link to it. It's available paperback, hardcover, ebook. It's called Surviving the AI Job Quake, Creating an Effective Resume in an AI Driven Labor Market. I think it's going to be very helpful so far. I've received several orders that, are from resume writers. Resume writers have been really raving about this book. And I think that should probably tell you, the job seekers, just how good it is. About half the time in my schedule now, I spend about half of my time teaching other resume writers advanced techniques. I teach them how ATS is actually viewing resumes versus just sort of generalities that they've lived on for the last decade or so. So yeah, I would. It's some of my best information, some of my best tips and tricks. It's a very quick, easy read, and in the foreword, I talk about how it's kind of the antithesis of what I actually normally do. Um, I I'm starting to look. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because I'm looking at what's actually coming up on some of these streams versus what is showing up on my StreamYard. Sorry. So let me close out the screen, stop being distracted. But this is very distilled. It is like hardcore. It is simple. It's an easy read. I think most of you could actually get through it in probably an hour or two. It's like 75 pages or something. It's very cleanly, very simply written out. And it is the antithesis of what I've been known for. I am a graphic resume writer. I do very formal, elaborate design resumes that I don't know. There's always going to be a place for them for people who are designers, for people who are creatives. They're always going to need like some sort of creative resume. For the most part, most of you guys, though, it's not going to be incredibly helpful, honestly. So let me share information that is helpful for you guys. So anybody who wants to join in, I have the comments available. Any questions you guys have, I'm here to answer. And I'm excited because I do have people who come to me this week with questions. So I'm very excited to answer them. First, I do want to kind of touch on this week's layoffs. We have some interesting ones this week, including that, we have Meta. Meta announced yesterday that it's going to lay off 600 employees within its artificial intelligence. And I gotta say, I have a lot of clients who work in Silicon Valley who work at like these, Mang. If you ever hear the expression Mang, it used to be Fang. In my version of Mang, Mang stands for Microsoft and Meta. There's two M's in my Mang, and then Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Okay. Uh, this is when we talk about Silicon Valley jobs or big tech jobs. That's what we're referring to, or Mang jobs. And I deal with Mang executives all the time who work on AI. And I always ask them, do you think like you're replacing yourself? Like you're basically just feeding into this beast that's going to replace you? Because, AI, I imagine of all the things it could do fastest, it's got to be able to program and code, right? So I find that interesting that 600 people from Meta announced to be cut off. And then another big one is GM. Pardon me. GM is laying off 3,300 people from electric vehicles. Apparently, these are not as big as they were hoping, and particularly the battery plants. And there's going to be like 1,200 employees at the EV factory in Detroit. So I love Detroit, so I'm sad to hear this. And I'm also sad I like electric vehicles. I keep hoping that they catch on in the United States personally. I'd love to see that happen. But okay, so let me get to some of your questions. Let's talk about very first one that I got was from Waden Used 1796. Waden, I'm just gonna call. I got this sense that this is I don't know Waden's gender. But hi Marie, I am 70 and I want to keep working. I love what I do. However, I'd like to secure a new position. Do you have any tips on how to update my resume to pass the AI scans? Or do you have a website or books you can link me to? Well, yes. So Wade, thank you, of course. And just so you guys know, I'm going to be updating my website, aspirationsresume.com. This week, I'm going to start democratizing my services. I'm going to have some that are lower prices, that aren't graphic resumes, that are just sort of simply designed resumes. I'm going to create, have a portfolio that I have not really posted publicly of more of my simple, regular designed resumes. They're still very well written. They're still very AI, effective. But I'm gonna offer more of those. So keep your eyes at aspirationsresume.com, Waiting. I also have a link to my book, which again, ebook, paperback, hardcover, very affordable. That should be a great resource to anybody looking. And then Wayden asked a couple questions, including maybe what I should be asking is how do I customize my resume? Okay, so I got a lot of questions this week that are very generationally driven. And I've been running into, especially, there's a very specific type of client that I've been helping a lot over the last couple of weeks. And these are people who have been at the same company. These are people who tend to be in their 50s or 60s that have been in the same company forever, and they want to try something new. Either they want to try something new or they're afraid that they're going to be let go. I think that a lot of this AI job quake is affecting older people because they are the ones that cost more. And a lot of them have relied, you're not, when you're talking about older people, you're not worried about their physical strength, right? They're not the people in the factories carrying stuff around. They're not the people on construction sites. They tend to be, the people that have the knowledge and the experience, and they're on their computers and they have the wisdom, and those jobs are being eaten up by AI. So there are people who just they just want to go, a different direction. They're a little tired of what they've been doing. They've been doing it for 70 years. Um, or not 70, but however many years, like 30 years. And there are people that are excited. They just want to do something new. Uh, your resume, here's the thing. If you are older, if you've been at the same company for years and years, hug that job, hug it really, really, really close. Honestly, it's good to have a backup resume. It's great to have a backup resume for sure. But please hug that job because if you're pretty satisfied, if you have health insurance right now, this is not the best environment. I think. I hate to be pessimistic, but I don't think that this is the right environment to just I want to find myself, and it's kind of chaotic out there. But if you find that you don't want to retire, if you want to find these new jobs, if you want to customize the resume, I would say first and foremost, the most important area of customizing your resume is making sure that you have the job title in somewhere in the resume. Highly recommend having it in the headline. Put job target. Yeah, even if it's look, I don't believe in the old school 1990s, 2000, the objective line that they used to have, and everybody had the same one. It all said, hoping to use my skills and talents for, to better a company. That said absolutely nothing, right? But if you put job target and then you write the job title that you're targeting, and then you start selling yourself like right after, simple and quick like that goes a long way because what AI favors the most are identical job titles in your resume. You're always going to be on top if you apply for jobs that are operations manager, and everything you've ever done is operations management, and all of your past job history, all the job titles say operations manager in them. AI is going to favor you. Employers are going to favor you. Recruiters are going to favor you. But the robotic gatekeepers are going to elevate to the top. If you are customizing your resume for different roles, first and foremost, make sure that the job title that you're applying to is somewhere in that resume. So if it's something you've never done before, put some sort of, I don't want to say objective statement, I say job target, you know, and then, operations manager in this example. And then you put in all the stuff that goes with it. I would also say to anybody, I don't care how old you are, 70 or 20, if every resume should really be customized at this point, right? Like it's great if you're applying for jobs that you are in good alignment to. That's what you should be doing. Ideally, everybody has a singular, stable career and they're still applying for jobs in that realm. And that's wonderful. But most people actually aren't that. Most people, this is 2025, most people have a lot of different things going on in their careers and side hustles and different gigs. Um, you need to make sure that the resume is mirroring the language used in the job description. You need to try to put the titles as closely as you can to what you are applying to. Because and this was always true, by the way. This isn't just an AI thing. This is you are always people they look at their resumes, they pop it up there, and a lot of times they just think, okay, I'm a good person. They're gonna like me. It's fine. I'll get a call for an interview. The problem is, and it's always been the case, is it's not just your resume. It's they have all at least there's always at least 50 other even the smallest jobs. There's always like 50 other people applying for that same job. So if those people look like they eat, breathe, and live that job, and you don't, they're gonna win that job all the time. Okay, there's always somebody who wants it more than you. There's always somebody who's better aligned at it than you, usually. And you've got to like figure out how do I make that employer see me more than those other people. So you really customize. Like for me, I make all of my resumes pretty easy for my clients to customize because I understand there's going to need to be some flexibility. So in the headline, there's always like some sort of headline that focuses on a target job. And mine are a little bit more complicated than just target job colon such and such. I'll usually use some adjectives, tell, I'm a transformative, what have you. I am a growth person. I'm a team motivator. Everybody has a brand. Everybody has unique characteristics that they're going to bring to any job that they hold, right? So maybe you're the person who likes to run into a fire and change everything. Maybe you are the person that gets everybody on the same page and can make, consensus happen. Everybody has something to do. So I would just focus on your human brand, but then use that job title. So maybe you're a transformative, job target operations manager and you're transformative, or you're, problem solver, or you're customer obsessed, or the other things that you want to call yourself. If you can mix that in with the title. I have opening summaries that speak to you as a brand, as a person, of what you bring to all those jobs. And then I also have, I'll follow that up with career highlights, but I'll usually have like a core competency section there, top skills. And sometimes if you don't really have all the skills, I'll go ahead and I'll call them capabilities instead of competencies. But that's where you have key phrases that really, really match the employer's key phrases. And you always want to match and echo the employer's language. So I always use like Coke and Pepsi. Like if you wanted to be a sales manager and they have a sales manager job at Coke and they have a sales manager at Pepsi, and Coca-Cola always says, we want you to beat sales quotas, sales quotas, sales quotas. And, Pepsi says sales objectives, sales objectives, sales objectives. You gotta mirror that language. If your resume says sales goals, sales goals, sales goals, you're not going to be in alignment with these jobs as much as other people might be. So just how the systems pick it up. So echo the language, go through, find the language, find how they are saying things. And of course, best wishes. Let's see. I have a chat, somebody in the chat, Meredith. Hello again, Meredith. The ridiculous thing is, what if AI comes up against some very possible implosion at some point in the future? We are outsourcing literally every aspect of work to a tenuous entity. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to shake out, Meredith. I've heard some people on newscasts call like, "Oh, it's an A bubble." Is it an AI bubble? I hope. Look, I would love to see this to have some sort of a limit, like a shelf, and then we kind of all adjust to a new normal, and it's fine. My concern is that AI isn't like industry. It's not just tools. It's a constantly learning, evolving thing. So for me, AI is a bubble is like saying like human knowledge and human potential is a. I don't think that these things are bubbles. I don't think that they have limits. I think that AI just constantly evolves and changes, and that we're going to be in kind of a chase mode, and that we as humans we're just going to constantly be adapting and changing. And yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm a little scared, but I'm also kind of excited. Trying to, I think there are clearly some real opportunities. I'll be taking some courses this week on different AI possibilities, different AI tools. There are things that AI has done that's made me as a writer much better, much stronger. There are things that I clearly see it's made me worse. I don't, I'm fascinated. I'm looking at this with a little detached fascination right now. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know that anybody knows what the actual end result's going to be. Okay, so I have on the other side of this, I have a much younger person asking me. I have Trevor, who is a college grad. He just last or is going to graduate. I'm sorry. He's expecting to graduate this December. Congratulations, Trevor. He's getting his bachelor of bachelor's degree, bachelor of science in business administration, a BSBA, from the Ohio State University. So, fellow Buckeye. So great to see you, Trevor. He says, for someone starting out, how do I build a resume that sounds credible when I don't have years of experience, especially when AI seems to favor seasoned candidates? Okay, so Trevor, that's a fantastic question. It kind of shows on the opposite side. And it's one that I have been hearing from graduates. And I got to say also, just from a personal standpoint, oh my gosh. And I don't know now if we're into Gen Alpha yet. I don't know if you're graduating this year, if that makes you Gen A. Um, Gen Z has been so maligned. I've never seen a generation that's just been so trashed, so trashed by people. You lazy idiot, good for nothings apparently, who just give TMI explanations for why you never show up to work. Uh, I hate it. I think Gen Z gets a really bad rap. And I don't know, Trevor, I apologize if you are Gen A, but yeah, new hires are getting very entry level kids, people coming out of college. It's got to be a weird time. It's got to be a shaky time. But here's the truth: AI doesn't actually prefer experienced candidates. Okay. It prefers clarity. It, prefers relevance. It prefers, and of course, and I say this all the time, I think it's going to be my catchphrase here. The machine filters. AI only filters. Humans select, right? And humans, like, especially for younger generations, they want to see people who accomplish. If you are a person who just sort of seems like you've had a lot of different jobs, you've been working at McDonald's or Starbucks, and all these jobs have lasted a month, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who is accomplished in any sense of the word, like anything that you've done in college, any organizations that you've started. And I'll tell you, the people who accomplish in these years, the people that really go out of the way and they work hard, and you can see, oh, they got this really great grade point average, they did these internships, they started this student council, they started, they were in part of these organizations, and those people continue consistently that I've seen in my history to just be successful people overall that continue to be successful humans well into their 40s, 50s, 60s. It says a lot about you, how you spend your time. If you are in college and you're having fun and you're on spring break and all you're doing is getting wasted every week, I mean, good for you. You got your parents to pay for it probably, and or you're gonna face some really hardcore loans. You had some fun; those are great memories. But those don't, But people can kind of see from your resume what kind of a student you were, what your priorities were, and they do tend to judge that. Okay, so you really want to focus on outcomes. Obviously, as an entry level employee, you don't have titles. You don't have a lot of times the big names, the corporations, the things that employers really, kind of gravitate to. But for example, they really want to see that you did stuff. All right. So, like, instead of saying, I interned at XYZ Corporation. You'd say, like, I improved the reporting efficiency by, creating, I don't know, Power BI dashboards used and that were used by the senior analysts. You turn your schoolwork into business language. You can talk about projects or capstones or case studies then and translate them into results. You completed a marketing plan for a local cafe. The things that you absolutely did, if you did do student council, if you were also on the athletic, they want to see a joiner. They want to see somebody ambitious. They want to see somebody who didn't just, go out and party every day and get C grades just because, I have a degree now. You want to think about anything that you did. So any kind of marketing plan for, local businesses, if you did that. If you haven't been doing these things in college, I'm sorry, I know you're about to get your degree. I would suggest any student going to college, if you're going to college, get involved with stuff, be an excellent college student. These things are really incredibly expensive. You milk them for everything that you can get. But of course, again, you want to stack your resume with like signal words, industry aligned terms, data visualization, stakeholder engagement. So it's very important. Like, and I was just saying uh, with the last person, I'm sorry, Waden used, you want the key phrases there. You want the phrases to be in alignment. So again, a nice skills section. And if you don't have the skills, maybe call it capabilities. But show that you're constantly learning, you're upskilling, and understand. And again, congratulations on your degree. I know those are very hard earned. I remember how excited I was for my own bachelor's. I would just say, but you live in a new normal, and everybody's going to have to constantly be learning. The people that are going to stop building, stop making income are the people that are just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done learning. I'm retiring. I don't want to learn. I don't want to do anything new anymore. I don't want to learn these new systems. those people are going to get swallowed up whole. And I say this like I was just talking to my dad this weekend. My father, toward the end of his career, he was just like an expert on a program called Power Builder, which was for insurance companies use this program called Power Builder. So my dad would go toward the end of his career, he would just go from one company, one insurance company to the next in these like year-long contracts, and he would design things on Power Builder. And Power Builder at the time was dying out. It was an old legacy kind of a system, and other things were coming to replace it. And just like honestly, at this point in my life, I'd be so happy to be a Walmart greeter, and I don't want to learn anymore. And he didn't. And then come another decade or so, smartphones come out. My parents only got smartphones. They used to be on the top of technology all the time. They were always learning. They were always advancing. They were always going to night class as well. And then they got to retirement mode, and they're just like, I'm not going to learn anymore. We're going to have a joint email, and we're not going to have smartphones. And then only recently, they're like, it's time. It's time to get a smartphone already. I don't think that their situation, which is very common among boomers, is something that anybody else in future generations are going to enjoy. Now, even they're like, okay, I got to actually learn some stuff. Um, it's a sort of silly. So learn, always have a skills section, always use that, swap it out, get those key phrases into alignment, use the same, use the same language. And also, and again, this applies to people of all ages, try to also mention how fast you are at learning things. Try to talk about and give examples where you showcase levels of adaptability or change management, or where you saw a process, or led a process, or led people who are kind of stuck, those reluctant holdouts, how you were able to get them over those horses to the water and make them drink. Those stories can be very, very helpful. But in an entry level standpoint, definitely want to talk about how you were able to quickly master the analytic skills, including Tableau or SQL, or I don't know. I don't know that SQL is that popular anymore. It feels like I've been writing fewer and fewer resumes about SQL. Okay. Pardon me, I just need to take a little sip here. Okay, so I also got a question from Gavin. Gavin is a creative director in advertising. And he says, I love visual resumes, but I'm told they get blocked by ATS, applicant tracking systems. Is there a smart way to merge creativity with my skill set? Yeah. So this is what I've actually been kind of known for. This is what I do. This is the area of expertise that I've shared in the resume writing space, is how to make what I call ATS friendly AF resumes that are also graphic. I can create incredibly graphic, infographic resumes that perform well, even better than plain text resumes, because I know how those machines interpret information. And what you have to understand about graphics is graphics really don't all right, so when you add a graphic, like for example to a Microsoft Word document, because of accessibility issues, and they want to make Microsoft wants to describe images that you have placed in there, and it's gotten better over the years, but there have been times when I've added like a graph or a graphic where Microsoft Word interprets it as something absolutely bizarre, like a ghost licking a lollipop or some stuff. It'll just think of something like that, and it'll create something called alt text. It'll have alt text in it to describe. So if somebody is like visually impaired and they're using the vocals, the sound, the audible information from it, it's going to stop where that thing is and describe this item. So first, when you insert a graphic into, let's say again, Microsoft Word, its most common platform still. I know a lot of people develop resumes in Canva, but you have to remove the alternate text. You have to just mark it as decorative. Mark it as a decorative element, and then it doesn't affect any accessibility issues. And then you take that graphic and you place it in front of or behind the text. That's it. That's the only trick. And so what happens is then the the applicant tracking system doesn't even see it. It doesn't recognize it. When it parses the text, it sees only the text. But when they print it out or they send the original PDF, because honestly, still with these systems, every time you ask, every time you go to recruiters or they do surveys, it's like 99.9% of the time, they still look at the original resume. They still judge that original presentation, right? So if you have it, let's say you have it as a PDF, those visuals are still going to, and especially if you're in a creative field, absolutely in a creative field, they're always going to look at the original visual presentation to get a sense of your talent. And of course, you should also always have your own website, your own online portfolio that the resume really highlights and showcases. Because frankly, in certain fields, but certainly in creative direction and advertising, they're going to want to see a website. They're going to want to see a portfolio. They're going to want to actually see your talent beyond the key phrases that you have within the resume that focus more on your leadership. So if you're a creative director, uh, I want to see all the technical terms that I'm going to need to hire. I'm going to need you to know all the Adobe uh, programs that my company is using. I'm going to need to see how big the teams are that you led. I think a lot of creative people, the problem is they want to put all their visual talent on a resume and not describe anything that they actually did beyond. Coca-Cola. I did this brand for Coca-Cola and their campaign for Coca-Cola, and they'll just list companies that they did stuff for, and they'll just have like the dollar amounts or some of the cool things about the campaign, which is great and that's exciting to a human, but it doesn't get through the bots because it doesn't have, the bots aren't looking for Coca-Cola, the bots aren't looking for Allstate or the company names that you are listing. The bots are looking for, you know directing photo shoots. The bots are looking for phrases that actually do the technical day to day of what you're supposed to do. So don't ever leave that out. Creative directors, they tend to have very difficult kind of word filled resumes because they are doing all of that. They are doing the business and they are doing the creative. And there's a lot of different things, especially when it comes to marketing. You're going to have like omni-channel, online marketing, digital marketing. And that's the same thing, but they're different phrases to express that. So again, mirror the language in the job description. Out of home marketing, all sorts of, magazine ads, pay-per-click ads. There's all these different things that most advertising and marketing firms need to do, and they have to, somebody. If you just write, for example, social media, but this company really needs you to know how to market on Instagram specifically, you have to have Instagram as a word, as a phrase in the resume. So again, I can't stress this enough, especially for creatives. Have a good movable, switch that key phrase library out for every job when possible, because most of the jobs that you're going to apply to are going to really need you to know specific things that they need to know. Meanwhile, you know everything. And you don't want it to get too junky and cluttery with just a bunch of giant skills lists, right? So if they need to know Instagram, if they need to advertise on LinkedIn, if they need you to do specific things, focus on that. But I'm sorry, I digress. You were talking about graphics, though. Graphics, they're very easy as long as you mark them decorative. And I also will say this: any charts that are made, any maps, charts, area charts, bar graphs, things like that. I always, and I teach resume writers, take a snapshot, make them images. I am a PNG girly. I like to have transparent backgrounds. I like to have things as a PNG image. You can, of course, use also JPEGs. Create these images, so that it doesn't get stuck, because a lot of like charts and graphs get kind of halfway interpreted by certain ATS programs, and you can take like the same chart and like Taleo will see it one way. It'll just have like the title shoved in with the rest of your text, and it can have like the actual figures shoved in another part of the text. Workday is also really bad at interpreting charts and graphs. And what happens is when you have like if you develop a chart or graph in Microsoft Word, these systems will take the items within the charts and graphs and just sort of sprinkle them into the text of like the paragraph of you describing a job description. Okay. That is a nightmare. It parses really poorly. And that's where that's where when they talk about, hey, people stop being so creative with the resumes, it's terrible for us. That's what they're talking about. They're usually not talking about graphics. The graphics are something that if people don't do very well sometimes, and a lot of, if you're a banker, if you're somebody who just, you're a recruiter that focuses on accounting all day, maybe you find graphics to be silly or distracting. I think what happens is recruiters, they want to find the information where they want to find it. If you're in a creative field, you want to have a portfolio. They want to know that they can see the portfolio and see your work. And they want to but the graphics should be an augmentation. Graphics should add, they should give some personality to the resume. They shouldn't distract, they shouldn't block, and they shouldn't mess up the text. And if you put information into the graphic, then be sure to also put it into the text because again, when ATS goes through, that graphic is just going to disappear. Okay. So turn all your charts, all of your graphs into actual images. Mark those images with the alternate text as, mark as decorative, a decorative element, or mark as decoration, so that it's just ignored. And then you focus on the text for the bots. And then when it gets to the future boss, maybe the recruiter cares about or doesn't care about the designs that you personally put into it. But I'll tell you who always cares about that stuff, and that's your future boss. The person who's actually going to hire you, even if the recruiter might be annoyed by some graphics, the future boss that actually hires, that makes the decision, the ultimate selector, those people are often very tickled pink by graphic resumes. So I would also warn, because I've seen like there's this one dude who did an experiment with resumes. It's a YouTube video. It's really excellent, but he talks about how graphic resumes, he didn't think that they worked because he took his resume with a bunch of experience and he did certain things to the resume with the text in terms of like the names of the companies he worked for, and he changed it to like Fortune 500 companies. And then at one point he's like, I'll do a graphic resume. And then the graphic resume performed much less. Problem was it wasn't really a fair fight because when he did the graphic resume, he did a graphic resume that had an entirely black background, and all recruiters hate that crap. Okay, there is good decorative, and then there is bad. There are good graphic resumes. There are bad graphic resumes. Any resume that is like I really highly recommend against an entirely colored resume. There are still companies that still print resumes. There are still, and a lot of times for like the actual hiring, the final boss, they will print that stuff for the final boss. They'll just say, okay, I got 5 good candidates. Let me print it out and put it on that person's desk. Still happens, especially in smaller companies. You don't want a black background resume, okay? You don't want like the whole thing to be red. All right, you want mostly a white background. You want them to be able to read the text and then have colored elements or creative elements throughout. So there's good graphic, there's bad graphic resumes. Um, and on that note, too, let me talk about some of these Etsy templates because a lot of people who want to get graphic resumes and they go on they look at what happens is they'll do a Google search and they'll look up resume templates, and then they'll see these really cool templates on Etsy that are real cheap, and they'll spend like $10-15. In fact, I used to sell these kind of templates on Etsy, but I felt bad about doing it at the time. I did it for a couple months and I stopped. At the time, I might do it again, I don't know. At the time, they were all, and they still are, they're all kind of housed in text boxes. Everything's in text boxes. And you'll hear a lot of resume writers talk about, you know, ATS doesn't read text boxes. Well, actually, most of those programs now can read within text boxes. They can read, and a lot of times they can organize it well. Now, it's very important to understand with ATS that it needs to be able to quickly find your information, right? So, one thing, for example, and I said this earlier, that I can do a graphic resume that's read better by these systems than a plain text resume. So, if you have like a plain text resume where all of your accomplishments are written out from beginning year to end year and you have like dates, ATS is often going to interpret that as a job because that's what they usually, when a date range is from year to year, that's usually a job. So ATS is going to interpret that. So when, like, for example, you have an accomplishment from year to year, don't say like 2013 to 2015, this and this happened. And oh gosh, years go by so fast. I'm aging myself with these hokey dates. But you want to say like FY, like 4 year 13, FY 15. And so then the ATS knows, okay, she's talking about accomplishment, not a new job title, okay? Another big thing is how you organize your information on the page, what you title themselves. And I'm guilty of this. My earlier resumes before, and again, this was probably in 2015, some of my award-winning resumes back in the day, instead of just saying professional experience or work history, they would say something clever like qualifications in action. Or, I have a client right now who just really wants all the headers to have really long, I did this and this. Let's really emphasize how great this is. And I'm like, no, dude, no. Because the systems, they want to see basic things. They want to see education. They don't want to see academic excellence. They want to see where your education is. They want to find your education. They want to find your professional experience. So over the last 5-6 years or so, you see all my, look on the Tory Awards or the Roar Awards, they all have the most basic, descriptions in the headers. Okay, I want ATS to find the information. So when you see these Etsy, back to the Etsy samples, the Etsy's have the word, they put everything in text boxes so that people can use the templates and any idiot can go in and they know it's too long or too short. If I put that into a regular template, and I should give a little tip here. Microsoft Word, if you're on office.com or Microsoft.com, they have really excellent ATS-friendly templates. And I would recommend them. That puts it in. There's no text boxes in them. When you look up, and they have and they're very clear. Here are the ATS-friendly options. Those are excellent. They're bright. They're colorful. And when you type into them, you actually typing into the document. However, if your experience is too long, it might run over a page. So it's going to go through a page break. You really have to navigate that. And the Etsy templates are very cool, they're modern, and they're colorful, but they have the text boxes so that anybody can use them. And now it's a little bit more relevant because now ATS can usually see in text boxes and by and large can organize it well. I get really worried that a lot of ATS or Etsy, they do the column thing. It's not just that they have text boxes, but they also have columns. They're all full of columns. Columns, they're okay, but we've seen studies, and I can pull it up for you somewhere. But there was like a study done like a year or so ago, where they perform 14% less well than non-column or single column resumes. So I'm a girly that favors the odds. I keep my stuff single column anymore. And I also know that if you take your resume and you put everything in columns, and then you do like a save it as a plain text, you open up that plain text file, the order of information then favors whatever you did. So if you're like a left column person and you start with an education in the left column and your education's not that really important, frankly, compared to all your more recent experience, your opening summary, that stuff, when you actually, how resumes, how that gets first in ATS is it first looks at your education, and then it looks at everything else in that column on the left-hand side, and then it starts on the information. And that's how it weighs. Placement on the page tends to weigh things as well. I don't like that. They don't perform as well. I don't like columns whenever possible. And sometimes they're necessary. Sometimes that's the way you really need to showcase somebody. But I do try to avoid columns for that reason. And if you're using text boxes in columns, then you're really giving ATS more hoops to jump through in order to interpret your resume. So that's one of the problems I have with Etsy. The other problem I have with Etsy is it's mostly a lot of those resumes are created by European graphic designers. And they like to do a couple things. One is they like to put their picture on everything. They like a profile pic. Well, I mean, if you're in Europe and you're applying for a company or into a country where a photograph is ideal, great. But in America, in the United States, and Canada, we have EOE laws. We have people we're trying to remove bias, right? HR departments are working so hard constantly on removing bias. It's a huge selling point for AI. It's a big reason why AI is so successful with them is because, and again, there was another study I read last week where it's like they're saying it's like up to about 40% has gotten rid of human bias. And you'll see in my book how AI still has human bias. The AI is always going to have human bias because it's developed by humans, but not so much direct human bias in humans. And so now they're going into a lot of these people are removing names from resumes. They're doing things specifically so that you cannot have any bias whatsoever. Putting a photograph on stuff is just basically begging for some sort of visual bias. Hire me because I'm attractive. Hire me because I'm, whatever your color, your race, and very sticky DEI HR issues. And so a lot of companies in the United States, at least, will be like, if it has a photograph, just immediately reject it. I've talked to many recruiters who have a practice of immediately rejecting resumes with photographs. So I don't care how good your photograph looks. Keep it off the resume. Keep it on your LinkedIn. That's where it belongs if you're in the United States. And there are other countries, and even throughout Europe, for example, it's a mixed bag. Depends on the country. So you really not only just have to focus on the continent, you focus on the country and talk about, figure out what practices are for each country and adjust accordingly. But the other thing I don't like about the Etsy templates is that a lot of them spend a lot of time creating clever infographics around skills. It's like, oh, look at this clever infographic, and this is how my skill set, I'm going to rank it on like a 1 to 5, and I'm going to tell you which ones are 5 and which ones are 1. Don't ever do that. That's so stupid. Don't rank your skills abilities. Don't give yourself a skills list and then rank their abilities. You have these skills or you don't. What clever graphics like that really show employers is they focus on the skills you don't have. They focus on like the skills that show up the least, right? So it's clever for a graphic designer to come up with that infographic. It looks cool on the page. It doesn't really serve you. So that would be what I say. Etsy templates, otherwise, they're very affordable and they're very cool for getting icons. So and I did the same with mine when I had them up and running. Something that's very cool about Etsy templates is the people who design them tend to create very cool icons for all the social medias. You can get like let's say you get a coral gray resume. You want coral icon. I promise you that Etsy template's going to have a coral icon for your phone calls, for home locations, for emails, for your contact information, for Instagram, for Facebook, and it'll all be the same cool color coral. So if you want to grab yourself a nice pack of transparent backed icons, you're usually going to be able to find it in those Etsy templates. Those are a wonderful source for that stuff. For those interested. Otherwise, in terms of effective resume writing that really work in modern times, yeah, not so much. Hey, well, I got like 8 more minutes because I'm yammering here. And I'm gonna try to get this a little bit more professional, but I do want this to be a place that people can come to every week and realize that they're not alone and that there's somebody here to kind of help them out if they have any questions. Um, I'm here. I really want to help. And I'm going to talk about, something I discuss in my book, something that's really stupid, something that I see on TikTok channels lately, resume TikTok, and these kids that are like doing little dances. And I feel like I should be in my car crying right now, or I need to get the big nails and just like clap them at you. Maybe that's what gets attention. So I don't know. But right now, I keep seeing white fonting. I keep seeing people like, okay, here's what you do. You take the job description that you're applying to, copy paste it into the resume, and then you make all the font white so that people don't see it. Employers don't see it. And then it matches the skills. It brings your resume to the top of ATS. That's so dumb. It's so dumb. And I have an entire chapter dedicated to the what happens when you try all these manipulative tricks. And there's a lot of different kind of manipulations. And unfortunately, in this day and age, they just don't work. It's best to come clean. It's best to just sort of describe things in a positive light and briefly in a positive light if they're negative. But AI has taken away our ability to kind of bullshit. It is what it is. Like I can't, as a resume writer, really, I used to be. I could take older experience, for example, and put it up on the top. That was more relevant, and then less relevant things at the bottom. Right? I could manipulate a human reader that way. AI is going to only see the dates. AI is going to see the gaps. AI is going to prioritize what you did lately versus what you did before. Okay, so the best thing you can do is just be as honest as possible. And when the human reader opens it, I'll still do things like that because when the human reader sees it, if it gets to the ATS, human sees it, it can still manipulate them. It can still give, and I don't even want to say manipulate because it's not. It's just, trying to make your case. And that's what I think AI really ticks me off. It's really hurt that ability, my ability as a resume writer or your ability as a job seeker to say, hey, okay, these things aren't ideal, but this is what I bring to the table that other people don't. I might have flaws. I might not have a perfect record, but these are the things that I can. AI has sort of taken away that ability, and it kind of sucks. But this white fonting thing, white texting, however you want to call it, I've always called it white fonting. That's just a nightmare. First off, it's not new. It's not new. It's been going on for 20 years, people. They've been doing white fonting. Secondly, recruiters see it. They see the text. They see all the text. So they know that you copy pasted the job description. Now, they might find you, innovative. They might find you clever for doing that. Chances are they won't, though. Chances are you're not the only one that does this. And I got to say, like, I run entire job searches for people. And I'll use like JobScan, for example. And when I was getting really good at using JobScan and when I was matching the key phrases to the point that it was giving me like 100% scores, I didn't hear back. Those were not the jobs that got interviews. The jobs that got interviews were kind of lower in the 80% range, where I matched really did a really good alignment, but it wasn't like every word perfectly matched. And I think it's because recruiters, they look at that, they see the matches, they're like, oh, this is obviously like spam. This is white fonting. This is some BS thing. Obviously, this isn't a person with their own mind or creativity. This is somebody who really went overboard in copying and pasting absolutely everything from the job description. And so there's like a level of distrust there. You white font, you copy paste, you do that nonsense, you're going to hurt yourself. And yeah, and in my chapters in my books, I also talk about, functional formats and doing things like hiding your work history to the second page, which makes a recruiter completely ignore the first page and just go right to the second page, see what you're hiding. There are a lot of like really silly manipulative things that people do in their resume, and it doesn't work. You gotta It is what it is. It's kind of forcing us all to be more honest. And you can't submit resumes now online without adding the months as well. You know, it used to be very common just not have months. You don't have any career, you don't have any job gaps. If you can, as long as you were able to get another job within the same year or the next year, you know, I can make the dates work so it doesn't have gaps. You know, those gaps a little bit now. It's not ideal, but we'll get through it together. And again, go ahead and go on Amazon. Again, ebook, paperback, hardcover, and it shows there's so many chapters about everything that's going on with ATS. I have an entire chapter on like ghost jobs, for example, everything that's going on right now, and I'll probably, it's the very first edition. I'll probably continue to update and give additional editions of this as I see giant ATS or AI market trends impact the job market. The information that you need to get has to be up to date. The advice, then I have a disclaimer in the book. What I say goes for right now because I have given entire lectures and presentations that like 5 years ago, completely irrelevant now. Honestly, in this day and age now, bad advice. And that advice has to change and adapt with the constant change in time. So I will keep you apprised. I will keep you informed. Um, and so for those, thank you, Meredith, for watching. I saw that people watch the streams later, but I'm going to be here every week, Wednesdays, until, you know, I don't know. Just hoping to, if people just need to hear some advice or just know that they are not alone, I'm here for you. You can text me, or not text me, message me on my LinkedIn. I'm going to start adding my links here. Your message me on LinkedIn. Marie Plett, a very easy person to find, Plett. Nobody has that name. Marie.plett@gmail.com. You can go ahead, email me your questions, marie.plett@gmail.com. And, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. But otherwise, may your bank accounts all be full. May all the news be good, and may your emails be brimming with new opportunities. All right. I love you guys. You guys have a great day or a great week. I'll see you next time.